Four movies: a tender, emotional family drama about art and sacrifice, a long-awaited comedy sequel that leans hard on nostalgia, a surreal, uncomfortable dive into conspiracy thinking, and a crime thriller about a media mogul fighting for his family and legacy. These are the last four movies I watched. Hi, I'm Mike Field, and this is Last Four, where I break down the last four films that I watched. I talk about what works, what doesn't work, and who's it for. And I promise I have more than just Henleys. I do wear other clothing items. So let's get into our first film. All right, movie number one was Sentimental Value. It's a 2024 Norwegian drama, and it's up for a lot of Oscars for this Oscar season coming up right now. Directed by Joachim Trier, who also co-wrote this film, starring Stellan Skarsgård as Gustav, Renata Rensva as Nora, his oldest daughter, Inga Ibsdatter Lilios as Agnes, his younger daughter, and then Elle Fanning as American actress Rachel Kemp. The reason why I watch this was I try to watch all the Oscar films if I can. Sometimes when they're like 2:48, 3 hours, it's really tough to get to, but I try. So that's why I wanted to watch this film, and I went into it mostly not knowing what it was about. Pretty much, it's about, again, filmmaker. It's similar to the last episode where we talked about Anaconda, where that all that filmmaking stuff kind of kicked in. Same thing here for me. I could definitely relate. But this one deals with an aging filmmaker. So somebody, Gustav, who was later on in his career. And he is looking back on his life and kind of, he's written the script, and the script is loosely based on his mother, he says, on his his upbringing. But it's really also has some kind of significance with his oldest daughter, who he is estranged a little bit. See, the thing is that when Gustav was younger, he left his family, left his wife, he left his two daughters to go become a filmmaker, and that's kind of like a little subplot theme in this film. The idea that you need to sacrifice, or what you need to sacrifice for your art, which is definitely a common thought process amongst many creatives. These are decisions and choices that everybody makes. So he's come back. Gustav wants to make this film with his daughter Nora. She says no, and then he ends up meeting Elle Fanning's character, Rachel Kemp, who is supposed to be like this really big actress in this world. She agrees she wants to be in the movie, and then he starts working with her to do the movie. But then he slowly realizes that it's really for Nora, and she kind of like brings Gustav to that. And the whole movie is about just Gustav and Nora and even Agnes a little bit trying to come together at some point in some way. So it's a drama. It's about filmmaking. It's about family. So it's one of those, which, hey, is a good thing. All right. So what works for me? This movie kind of sneaks up on you. It opens up with the voiceover about the house and about how it's a living entity, and just everybody who has lived within the house, the generations that have been in there. And that kind of, the movie does do a little flashbacks back and forth throughout time, which is interesting. And you kind of see Nora as a young girl, and she's listening to her mother, she uses the house as she's a therapist. So she kind of listens to what she is talking to her patients, because she can hear them through the stove that's connected to the pipe or whatever like that. So it's interesting. That whole idea of family and nostalgia, and just kind of the question of artistry and your artistic passion versus family. And as Gustav talks about at a birthday party for his grandson, they're all drinking afterwards. Not the kids, obviously, they have gone to bed. But they're all sitting around. And he talks about how, can you really be an artist when you have to always think about paying the bills and think about getting the kids to school and the monotony of the routine and of everyday life, which I'm sure many of us experience all the time. So it's an interesting conversation, because he made that decision 20, 30 years, 40 years prior to, in this film, to be like, to know he couldn't. It's not like he just up and left and says, "You're dragging me down." He just couldn't make it work. He was always fighting with his wife. So he left, and then he went off and became this had a big time career. Well, he still had the career in the beginning, but he kind of went off and did what he did. So there's that conversation that they have, which is a really cool moment. And it's really interesting. I wouldn't say cool. And I said cool, but I wouldn't mean cool in terms of like, oh man, that's rad, I'd love to have that conversation. I mean, cool in terms of it's just very fascinating that dialogue and that conversation, because you kind of have that all the time when you're creative and you're trying to be passionate, but you also have to be responsible and about, life, about, like I said, paying the bills, paying the mortgage, making sure your kids are going to a good school, make sure they get what they have, making sure you're paying the grocery bill, all that stuff. So that all adds up. And it's just really like those things always are at each other. And I don't know if there's ever kind of a happy medium. I'm sure if you're making money in your big career, that adds to that, but there's probably always that, pull back and forth, that give and take that we all face as creatives. So that whole conversation is just a really, and that whole subplot is just a really interesting element to this movie. I should say sub-theme, not plot, because that's not really a plot point. What also works is the family trying to connect is Nora. Nora is a famous actress now. She's a stage actress. We meet her in the beginning of the movie, which is a really cool introduction to her, because you don't know what's happening. She's having first night jitters, and you don't think she's going to go on stage, but then she gets on screen and she's great. She gets on stage, she's great. She wows them, and she's extremely popular within that world. So that whole, like, when you meet her and then you meet her relationship with the father, it's all the family dynamic stuff is really, it's real. It works. It's strong. And it's, again, I keep saying fascinating, but it's just really fascinating. All the performances are great. Stellan Skarsgård is really good. So everything is just, he's angry, he's stubborn, he's wounded. He's not a villain, but like I said, he's made decisions and choices in his life to go towards art. And in that regard, when you view him from the lens of the family, yes, he's the bad guy. But if you don't know that and you think, like, oh wow, this filmmaker, he's just so great, you think of it that way, then you don't think of him as a villain. But in his own life, he is. And I think he's kind of coming to a reckoning of that and trying to find peace with that, and like he writes this script for Nora. He wants her to be in it, but the way he asks her is just, hey, it's for you. It's perfect. Just read it. He wants to get to this place, but he doesn't know how to get there with her. And I think most of this movie is figuring how he can figure out how to get there with Nora and her as well with him. And even at the end, when they do ultimately, he describes this shot at one point to Rachel, Elle Fanning's character in the movie, and he's describing the shot, like what it's going to be. And they actually do the shot at the end of the film with his daughter Nora. And even then, there's a sense of, it's not as if like I don't want to say it's a happy ending. It's not as if they're like, oh, everything's forgiven, but you're definitely seeing the first steps on that bridge to connection. And they may never kind of connect in some way, but it's really just, it's there. So you kind of want to be hopeful after the credits roll that they're going to find their way together again and live out the rest of Gustav's life together. But you don't know. So what doesn't work? Honestly, not much. Like, this movie is really, really good. Really good. Like I said, it sneaks up on you. At the end of this movie, I was locked in. I know for some that subtitles is an issue. They don't like to read on the screen, but I'm telling you, it's worth it. And I don't like dubbed over voices because I don't want to watch something that's not in the original language. And Elle Fanning plays Rachel Kemp is American, so they do go back and forth to English. So there are not subtitles all over the place, but you do need them there. And I think it's really not as off-putting. I think people go in thinking it's, the first 5 minutes you're like, oh my God, I'm reading them back and forth reading. But like as the movie goes on, you figure out your rhythm and where the subtitle is and where they're saying, and you figure that out. And it just allows you to kind of like get into the movie. So don't be scared about the subtitles. I think it's also, it's a heavy drama. So that might not work for some people because they might not like the uncomfortable watch. They might not like watching a fractured family trying to figure it out. I get it. Heavy topics. So I understand that. But other than that, this movie is nominated for a pretty good reason. It's really good. This movie is for artists, filmmakers, writers, musicians, anyone that juggles art and family and that responsibility. This is for you. If you like these type of quiet emotional dramas, this movie is for you as well. I really, really recommend this. I can't recommend this movie enough for people. movie number 2, which is a complete 180 from what I just talked about with Sentimental Value. I watched this is Spinal Tap II, The End Continues. Now, for those who remember, this is Spinal Tap back in 1984. This is obviously the sequel to that. Directed by Rob Reiner, the late Rob Reiner. Stars Michael McKean, the same, Christopher Guest, Harry Shearer. They're all back, and they're all playing, and Rob Reiner's in it as well. They're all playing themselves from the original This is Spinal Tap film. I watched it because I like This is Spinal Tap, and I wanted to watch the sequel with all these reboots and reimaginings and the old casts returning. That's kind of like everywhere. I want to watch them, but I do go in with is this going to be worth it? What the story they're telling here is they're just coming back for another. They're doing one single show. They're doing it in New Orleans, and it's just basically the mockumentary crew following them around, and that's pretty much the setup. We also should understand this too. Like, this is one of the first successful mockumentary genre films. We have a bunch of them now, like Pop Star, which we did on Forgotten Cinema, the TV show What We Do in the Shadows, and the movie itself. They're all of those films that do mockumentary style all basically owe it to this film, because this film, there were a couple older films that came out, or older TV series that came out that were kind of mockumentary before This is Spinal Tap, but This is Spinal Tap was the first hit. And then after that this subgenre kind of blew up. What works? Well, it's great to see the cast again. It's great to see them working. It's great to see them, that same dry humor that was in the first film. I mean, the first one was 40 years old. So obviously everybody is much older. They're in their 70s and 80s. And so it's great to hear the dry humor. It still works. They still have chemistry together. There are some laugh out loud moments. There's a lot of callbacks. If you like the original, you'll like the callbacks. Obviously, some of the characters and actors that were in the first film passed away. So they have like their sons or their sister or their daughters, or they just reference them and just what happened. They kind of show clips from back then. So it's there is that. If you like the callbacks, if you always like just what you remembered, they kind of do that. There's just joy in seeing everyone together in this band together. Maybe it's not fully justified. I mean, this movie's fun for the fans. So what doesn't work? If dry humor isn't your thing, you're not going to like this movie. You're going to think it's not funny. Now, there are more laugh out loud moments in the first film than this film. I did laugh out loud, like I said in the beginning of this. So I did enjoy it. But if it's not your thing, you're not gonna like it. If you didn't like the first one, this movie's not going to convert you to like that one. So you're not going to be into it. And the other thing is too, and this is true with all reboots and all when original casts come back, the cast is older. The cast is in their 70s, like I said, 70s and 80s. So there's a lot of scenes where they're sitting down. There's a lot of scenes where they are in one location for a while, like they're in the studio set for a while. It echoes that kind of pandemic era production energy where you had sets that you had movies being shot during the pandemic. You're really limiting. You're trying to limit how many people are on set, and you're trying to limit how many people you need and crew. And so therefore that limits like what sets you can use and where you can go and where you can be. So they're in like the studio location a lot. They're in the home a lot. They're in the arena for quite a bit in terms of behind the scenes. They do have when they come up and they start playing, the crowd is full. I honestly don't know if that crowd is CGI enhanced or that's actually just a bunch of people in there. So I hope so, but whatever. Either way. Who's it for? It's for people who love the original. Honestly, that's the biggest. If there's a percentage of the people that I'm saying who's it for, 95 to 96% of the people are who love the original. People who like mockumentaries might enjoy this. People who like other Christopher Guest films like Best in Show, Waiting for Guffman, A Mighty Wind. I would recommend you watch those too if you haven't, but people who love those movies will like this film. Movie number 3 that I watched was Bugonia. I think I said that right. The 2025 film from Yorgos Lanthimos, stars Jesse Plemons, Emma Stone. I wanted to watch it again because of the buzz. Obviously, and I try to watch everything I can. It's based loosely on a 2003 South Korean film called Save the Green Planet. I have not gone back and watched that, but I mean, feel free if you'd like to. If you like Lanthimos, he's done Killing of a Sacred Deer, The Favorite, and Poor Things. it's very much in his wheelhouse. Just the way the movie is told is very surrealistic and a lot of social commentary, absurdist social commentary. But it's good. So basically, Emma Stone is the head of a CEO of a company. Jesse Plemons plays a man who kidnaps her, Teddy, and he wants her to reveal that she is an alien from the Andromeda system, and she's an Andromedan, and he's trying to just kind of out her and get her to admit who she is, and then kind of he wants her to take him to their ship, which he says is in orbit. So we're dealing with a lot of conspiracy thinking. You kind of some flashbacks to Teddy and his mother, because you find out that his mother was dying or had a disease, and Emma Stone's character, her company put her in a trial, but it it's not really working or what have you. So there is kind of a connection outside of just he just picked her up. He obviously chose her for a reason. So what works? The story basically takes on like conspiracy culture. Teddy is somebody who has been molested by his old babysitter one time. And we meet this guy. He shows he's a cop now. And he's like, every time he sees Teddy, he's apologizing to him. Hey, man, I'm sorry about what happened that one time and whatever. So, that affects Teddy in some way. And obviously in a big way. And then Teddy is clearly down that rabbit hole of conspiracy thinking. And he's got, he's got his cousin with him that he is obviously influencing, and Teddy has already chemically castrated himself, so he does that for his cousin, and so it's so that they can focus and what the task at hand is, and that element of the story, the conspiracy culture element is really good, and Jesse Plemons as Teddy is really good. I'm surprised he wasn't nominated, but hey, it is what it is. He's really got Teddy down. And this is his movie, and he carries it, playing a man who is constantly unsettled. And his whole performance is that. And there's never any kind of baseline with Teddy. It's just, even when he is quiet, even when he is forced to talk and pretend that he is okay, he is still underneath his face is still like just a ball of just whatever it is, nervousness, anxiety, and energy. He's like holding it back. Like much of this movie is Plemons holding back that rage and that anger, that anxiety until it kind of explodes a little bit at times. The filmmaking is really good. The dialogue is really good. The score is interesting. It's very interesting. It's very big. It's very loud. It's like almost bigger than the movie, which at first I was not thrown off. I was thrown off. That's probably the best thing. It's not that I didn't like it. It was just like, oh wow, it almost felt like a Hitchcock film, but bigger. So I dug the score, and the leads and Stone and Plemons are just really good together. My biggest issue with this film is a good movie. It's a very good movie, but my biggest issue is that they answer the question that Teddy has in this film. There's a real conversation that's happening in this film not alongside with conspiracy thinking, but also with mental illness. And when you do answer the question that is put to the test here, you kind of undercut the film's tension. You undercut the purpose, and where if you just left it unanswered, I think the movie would have been stronger. The movie stops being about conspiracy and trauma and mental illness and just becomes something else differently. And I get why you do what you do at the end, but it just doesn't, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't need it. Maybe that's the thing. I just don't need it. I don't want any of that. I'd rather just leave it unanswered than just kind of like let the story lay as it lay. So I didn't really dig that. As much as I like the acting in this film, as much as I like the character of Teddy, it's really hard to connect with anybody in this film. Everyone is really not that likable. So it's really difficult to connect with anybody. So there's no emotional anchor in the film for me. Everyone's either manipulative, they're broken, they're detached. It's tough in all movies. Obviously, when you're an audience member, you want to connect with someone in the film to kind of like either see the movie through their eyes or just kind of like feel the movie through them. And you don't have that here at all. Or at least for me, it was difficult to do that. Who's this for? Hardcore Lanthimos fans. If you're big into Yorgos Lanthimos, this movie's for you. You'll love it. If you love movies that are morally murky, surreal, if you love character unfriendly storytelling, so everything that I just said before about how no one's likable, if you like that in a film, then you'll love this film. Then you're all about it. Just because I don't doesn't mean it's not good. So I mean, if you're into it, you're into it. If you like the style and the craft and the filmmaking that's going on in this movie, then this is right in your wheelhouse again. All right, movie number 4. It's Highest to Lowest, the 2024 film directed by Spike Lee. It's got Denzel Washington, Jeffrey Wright. It's a loose remake of Kurosawa's film High and Low. I watched it because I'm a big Denzel guy. I'm a big Spike Lee guy. So, I mean, obviously, I want to see it. This deals with like class, and the moral responsibility in terms of when you talk about the David King character that Denzel plays. So basically, his son is kidnapped, and they want a ransom, but then they find his son, but then they realize it's not his son. Who was kidnapped was his godson, who lives with him. I believe they both live with him and his best friend, who's Jeffrey Wright's character. But the thing is, then what ends up happening is, they still want the ransom. So will David King pay the ransom? All right, so what works? Spike Lee films are an experience. They are loud in a good way. They are big in a good way, and they are when you're watching a Spike Lee film, you're watching a Spike Lee film. The biggest thing is, like, there is a shift within the movie, and the music shifts with it. At the beginning of the film, you have these big orchestral tone notes and whatnot, and it's huge. It's great. In the opening, one of the things I like in the opening is they have this huge drone shot that is really great. It's a big shot. It goes across the Brooklyn Bridge and it goes up to where our David King is, our lead David King is, and he's on the phone, and you can hear his conversation. It goes right up to his balcony. It's a really great shot, and with the music, it's great. And then the score flips when the kidnapping happens, and it turns into this like piano, like a little like this piano like score that's kind of like bringing you along with the story, like, we're solving this, we're going to figure this out. When they go to the Puerto Rican Day Parade, it kicks into the music there, which is really good. So, and then it comes back a little to the piano score, and it kind of brings back all that stuff. So the score is really good, and it's really like just like big in your face, but it really takes you through the movie, which is really cool. Of course, there's a lot of visual energy up front. There's a lot of great shots going on. And you've got Denzel chewing up scenery, which is never a negative in my book. While it's a remake of Kurosawa's High and Low, it's not like a retread. This is very much its own film. Like I said, Denzel's great in it. There's a scene where he is sitting there. The cops come in and they're asking him if he will pay the ransom for his godson, if he'll just say yes. And because there's some consternation with his character, whether he still wants to pay the money, which it's a lot of money, it's $17.5 million. And he doesn't say anything. And it's like, he plays it really well, obviously. But there's also that, like, the dilemma of all that is just all over his face, and he's just trying to, you're watching somebody work out, that dilemma in the moment. And it's really cool. And there's a lot of moments with Denzel in the movie that are really good and really strong. I really like the moral drama. I really like Jeffrey Wright in this film with Denzel. I thought they were both good. There's a couple like little moments of levity towards the end that's really funny. So what doesn't work is everything I just talked about. What works, it kind of gets lost a little bit in the movie, especially when the tone shifts, because it turns into the moral dilemma of, is he going to pay the ransom? And then he decides he's going to. And then it turns into this action movie, and he's going to solve the crime of who did what. So the shift in tone is where I kind of get lost a little bit. The other thing that bugged me were the cops. I don't know what it is, but they're like really inconsistent. They're hostile with King. They're hostile with Jeffrey Wright's character, Paul. They're hostile with each other. Fans of Spike Lee, fans of Denzel Washington, me, I that's who I am. So that's where I was for it. There's themes of community in the film. The dilemma, the moral dilemma that King has in the movie, which I really liked. If you're into that, if that kind of like, should you pay a ransom if it's not even for your son? If you like Spike Lee, then this is a movie for you. So that's my last four. A drama about family wounds and artistic legacy with sentimental value. A reunion sequel. This is Spinal Tap II. The end continues that it hits differently depending upon how much you love the original. Conspiracy thriller in Bugonia that equal parts fascinating and frustrating for me. And a bold, chaotic Spike Lee take on Kurosawa classic with highest to lowest. So what were your last four? Drop them in the comments. Let me know. I'm always looking for a next movie. Thanks for indulging me. I'm Mike Field, and thanks for watching the last four, and we'll see you next time.